Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sigman, Business Development Manager for Custom Building Products. We're going to talk about, again, there are plenty of seats up front here. It's not a splash zone. You don't have to sit in the back there. But we're going to go over some mainly pictures. So if you have my eyesight, you may want to come closer here because on the screen it might be hard to see them in the back. But we're going to talk about pre-sealing tile and stone and the use of grout releases. And why would you use them? When do you use them? And what's the difference with the pre-sealing grout release? Isn't it the same thing? So again, so the presentation like this, obviously in 20 minutes we're going to cover a lot of stuff quick, but we can all stand in the back and answer questions if we have more stuff you want to talk about. But the stuff that I'm talking about here, again, this is my 28th, almost 29th year doing this. I work, both commercially, residentially. It could be Mrs. Jones' house to shopping malls, airports, doesn't matter. And the stuff I'm putting up here is stuff simply that I see, hear, get emails, texts, phone calls, stuff that I see on job sites day in, day out, week in, week out. And when it comes to the care and maintenance industry, almost 29 years later, and people say, well, aren't there standards for this? No, there's not. There's standards for mortars, grout, sound attenuation, waterproofing, crack isolation. We got standards for all kinds of stuff, and that's awesome because it allows you to say, well, what is that? What's a high-performance cement grout versus a regular grout cement grout? Well, here we go. Here's what it means. So, when would we pre-seal or not? I mean, what does that look like? Well, it's a little bit arbitrary. So that's why we do these kind of sessions to say, hey, let's take out the guesswork. Let's take out the misconceptions and stuff. So all I'm putting up here, I'm going to show some bad pictures and I'm going to show some good pictures. This, and a lot of people will say, well, Rod, pre-sealing stuff, hey, look, you don't understand. Really, there's not money in the budget and there's really not time in the schedule to do what you're saying. And again, I understand the real world. I've done it for almost 29 years. I get what people face with, maybe general contractors, with owners, with architects, where everybody's going, hey, we want it for the lowest price. We want the best work. What I'm trying to provide here is just situations that what I call reality. And that is that if you're going to do a job, if you're selling product, be it tile, stone, if you're a distributor, if you are a GC, an architect, spec writer, this stuff, it doesn't matter, a designer, whoever you are out in the industry, this stuff is going to hit you in reality, no matter whether we want it to or not. Reality is what it is. And so not all tile or stone needs to be pre-sealed. You don't need a grout release for all tile and stone. But do you know when and why you would? Because using these products, I promise you, when and if necessary, they will save you money. And guys go, I don't understand how buying a product and taking the time to put it on is going to make me money. Then you haven't done it yet. And a lot of guys, and especially guys, let's just be honest, I'm a creature of habit. I do stuff the same way, Dan. I got my routine. I do stuff the same way. But if it's costing me money, if it's costing me time, why am I going to keep doing this? That's not a smart way to do it. And again, guilty, I've been there. At some point, though, it's like, okay, well, how do I do it? And that's what these sessions are meant for. That's what this trade show is. This is free stuff where you go, man, we're trying to help you be profitable and successful and to say, hey, let's take the guesswork out of it so that you know how to get around and navigate the pitfalls that everybody else is just going to keep going, well, that failed. Okay, who's going to pay to rip it out? We don't want you to be there. So that's what this presentation is. Picture on the left is actually from the Tile Council of North America. And they actually agree with what I'm saying today here, which is, look, unglazed porcelain, either polished or unpolished, unglazed porcelain. We're not talking glazed porcelain. Don't need to pre-seal that. We'll talk about grout releases in a minute, though. Talking about sealers, the need to seal before grouting. Unglazed, unpolished, or polished porcelain. That's a picture from the Tile Council of North America. They said, hey, we took a water-based penetrating sealer, sealed half of that unglazed, unpolished porcelain, grouted the whole thing with epoxy grout, and look what happened to the right. Looks like you took a color enhancer and put it on there. That's not. That's actually the epoxy grout that's not on the tile, that's in the tile. If that was a real job, guess what? You would be going, okay, well, how much does it cost to rip it out and replace? Because by the time you tried to get it out of the tile, you might as well just replace it. So, but what happened on the left? Sealer did its job. Not only did it stop the epoxy grout pigment and the resin from getting in the tile, in terms of the cleanup, what you don't see is how easy the left side was to clean up versus that right side that wanted to stick right onto the tile and into the porosity. That is where you make your money. I'm not an installer, but I've done 28 years, I've done my fair share of installation. And when I'm the guy grouting, I don't want to be down there grouting any longer and any harder than I have to where my arm is going to fall off going, oh my gosh, this is like grabbing the tile. This is a nightmare, and I've got 3,000 feet to do. Are you kidding me? If you pre-seal it, it allows you to do this going, okay, well, it's going to be a lot of work, but this is a lot easier than doing this where my shoulders and my back is going to be dying. Speed. How many rinses do you have to do? Time's money. How many rinses I have to do is money. And it ultimately comes down to workmanship and results. Because the jobs where I see, hey, we got the residue off, but Rod, can you come out and tell me, can we cap those joints? Because by the time we got all the grout residue off or out of the tile, we either discolored the grout, or the joints now are so dished and cupped that the owner's not buying off on it because they're going, well, the grout's 3/4 of the way full. Can we just put more grout over top of it and then do what? Do the same thing you were losing money, the owner's not happy, people are, again, so to me it's like, why do we want to do that? Isn't there a better way? And that's what the Tile Council of North America says, hey, you know what? There is a better way. And that's what we say every day, all day long. Picture on the right is a limestone job where the installer did not do a mock-up, but they at least started to do an area, and what he found out was it started picture framing the limestone. He went, whoa, wait a minute, hold on, let me make a call. And then and when he talked to me, I said, yeah, you need to pre-seal that stone. Now, fortunately, that was just moisture picture framing. It eventually dried out. But what he found out was when he did the rest of the job here, and it went out into the kitchen, and obviously that's the toilet room, when it went out in the kitchen and out in the other areas, he's like, Rod, not only did it not picture frame, but the grouting that was a lot easier, the cleanup was easier and quicker, and the job came out great. It's like, that's how buying a product and spending time to put it down actually increased his efficiency, improved his finished work, and prevented his problem. It's like, isn't that a win? And it is, but it's kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of us actually think is they don't want to buy more product and spend more time. So, picture here, again, talking about pre-sealing. What I did here is took a piece of limestone, put brown and gray grout on, let it sit for about 20 minutes, i.e. per the normal grout manufacturer's recommendations, sealed half of it, and obviously you can tell which half I sealed, wiped it off, and so again, how would you grout that if you didn't pre-seal it? You know? And some guys will say, well, Rod, we just soaked the limestone. Is that a good idea? Because what if there's soluble iron in the stone, which, by the way, a lot of limestones like Jura-beige limestone have iron. What if there's other impurities in there? What if there's salts in there, like a lot of Portuguese limestones or a lot of Middle Eastern limestones, right? Egyptian limestone, if you ever worked with it. They have soluble salt in them. If you soak that stone, guess what's going to happen? Hey, we got through the grouting process. How do we fix this efflorescence problem? What about all the rust blooms that are coming out? Like I said, I understand that concept. There's a better way. This will save you time and money. And again, we've got no staining. And again, I promise you, that is easier to grout, quicker to grout, easier to clean up, and produces a better ultimate job where the people are going, God, that's why I hired you. Look at my job. This is great. That's exactly what I was looking for. And everybody goes, oh, great. Help me cut you a check. We're good. It's really that simple. Mock-up here. This was a high-end custom home builder in Dallas, not far from where I live, and went out to the job site, and they had the mock-up wall. It's Texas Looters limestone. And so what I like about it, again, I absolutely recommend mock-ups, and what I love about this, he said, hey, client, well, you know, what would it look like with an enhancer? Okay, fine. So we took an enhancer and we did that. By the way, do those two pieces look the same? No, not really. And you go, why is that? Well, number one, stone is stone. So sometimes it's just, well, they may look fairly close untreated, but when you treat them, you go, wow, there's actually more variation in this stone than I thought. So you may or may not like that. That's okay. What you might not see, again, if you have my eyesight back there, is there's a lot of splotchiness on this piece of stone. What is that? It's the grout that where they did not pre-seal that stone when they grouted it. If you can see all this blotchiness up here, that's actually not the stone. That's actually the grout that's actually in the stone. Now, interesting, nobody had an issue with that. Most people would. But if you're going to enhance this stone, if I put enhancer on that piece, that thing would come out so splotchy. And it's like, why? Because there's actually grout and mortar all in that stone. If we pre-sealed it and then grouted it, not only would it make, again, the installation easier, but it would come out more consistent like the owner would like. So it was a good exercise in talking and walking through this. And I love that. It's a mock-up walls. I go, man, I love seeing mock-up walls. It's what more people should do. On this piece, I took, again, a limestone, put an enhancer on that half, and then grouted it. Now, what do you notice about the difference in the color of the grout? Why is that so much lighter on that side than that? What's happening to the grout? What's that? Drying, right? So, and by the way, that's 2 minutes after I put it on. What's happening? That limestone is so porous, it's pulling all the moisture out of there. Is that a good thing for the grout? What happens to grout when it hydrates and cures too quick? It could crack, but you could just sometimes take it out with your finger now and go, it looks good, but why is it so soft? Because it hydrated too fast. Cement doesn't do well. Cement-based materials do not do well when they dry so fast, they become soft. So what's happening? Why is it so dark here? Because again, the grout, by the way, not only is it pulling the moisture, guess what it's doing? It's pulling the grout into the stone. Over here, what is it doing? It's sitting on top. And after 20 minutes, I could wipe that off, and it's like, there you go. It was not only easier to clean. On the left side, I actually had to get a white pad, water, scrub it, and there was still a little bit of stuff that got into the stone. Those are the issues that I see constantly, day in, day out, where guys are going, hey, how do we get this out of the stone? Or, hey, again, can I cap the joints? Hey, again, that's time and money you can't afford and should never do, because then the owners are going, what are you doing there? That's not what we taught. I mean, I don't think that's acceptable. You know, let's have 3 meetings with 8 suits and talk and stand and look at it. There's always time for that. We don't want to have to do that. Moisture is an issue if you're doing especially exterior work, which I see more and more sealing being done exterior. Pre-seal it, and you can use either natural look sealers or color enhancers. The picture on the right, why is that so blotchy? Because they wanted a color enhancer. That's what the color enhancer looked like when they applied it. Why? Because nobody took a moisture test. And if you can see, I don't know if anybody can see this, but where's the needle? That's a 0 to 100 scale. Where's the needle? It's 95 out of 100. What does that mean? It means it's out of 100%, it's 95% soaked. But Rod, it doesn't look wet. Rod, it didn't feel wet. Rod, we gave it a week before we sealed it over here in this area. But how do you know it was dry? I don't know. How could we know? That's a $300 meter. And I always tell anybody, I tell my buddies, I tell anybody, if you're going to do that kind of work, $300 is a minimal investment, because I'm not that good. I don't know anybody that good where you can go. I had a buddy of mine wait 30 days, have a similar issue. And he's like, Rod, I waited 30 days before I sealed it. But apparently it wasn't dry. How could it not be dry? Installations are more wet than most anybody I ever talked to never believes how wet these installations are. And I'm talking even years later. Like, that's crazy. The only way you're going to know that is not through me, not through somebody else. There's nobody that good. This is where equipment helps helps you navigate going, wait a minute. If they had done this test like we did on another area, this is another area that they didn't seal. When they started seeing that, they stopped. But had they done this, we would have went, okay, wait, we need to give it another week. We need to check. We would have been able to formulate a game plan that made sense. And again, instead of going, well, wait a minute, it's bad sealer, or did you apply it wrong? So again, these are things we want to avoid. Now, what I say here, The best way to pre-seal a stone is to seal it before you set it. Now, any installers out there normally go, Rod, what did you just say? Seal it before you set it. I didn't say by the way, I didn't say that's the only way to do it. I said when people say, Rod, tell me the best way to do this, I'm going to tell you the best way to do it. Seal it before you set it. Why? Because I don't have to deal with moisture from the mud bed. I don't have to deal with moisture from the thin set and grout. I don't have to deal with moisture coming up all the way through because we put a crack isolation or waterproofing membrane down, and the only way for that moisture to evaporate the system is to do this. And then you're waiting 5, 6, 7 days and sealing something this way that has 100% moisture saturation. I don't care whose product you use, water-based, solvent-based, this company, that company. Those failures I just showed you are I promise you they will happen. No, just sealing the face of it typically. 6-sided sealing, which is, that's a whole other thing. It can be done. That's a whole other conversation, but that's a great point. In here, we're just talking about sealing the face. But when this is done, and I get it, you can't do this on every job, but I'm telling you, if and when you can, whenever this is done, I never get calls on jobs like this. Never. Everybody goes, how'd it go? Came out great. On schedule, great. Customers happy, architects happy, everybody, great. Got paid, we're good, man, next job. It's when we do the job I just showed you that everybody's like, moisture, well, how can we get rid of all the moisture? Well, now that's going to take time. Could be months. I don't know. So now we get into stuff we can't control. So again, it's the best way, not the only way. By the way, when you're pre-sealing, stay with the same sealer all the way through. I don't care whose product you're using. If you're going to use a natural look water-based sealer as your pre-sealer, before grouting, use it after. If you're using a solvent-based natural look sealer, use that as your pre-sealer, use it after grouting. If you're going to use a color enhancer like I just showed you, use that as your pre-sealer and after grouting. Do not mix and match sealers, and do not use a low-end sealer to pre-seal and then think, well, we'll just use the high-end stuff after grouting. Doesn't work that way. I promise you, it doesn't matter which company on the show floor you look at or you use, that is a universal truth. You cannot mix and match sealers and think that if you just use the good stuff at the end, I'm going to have good stuff look and performance. I promise you that's a universal truth. So again, stay with the same stuff all the way through and bid it that way, right? You shouldn't be, sometimes people say, well, Rod, that's expensive. Hopefully you're not paying for the sealer. You didn't buy the grout and the mortar, and hopefully you didn't buy the stone. Why are you paying for the sealer? That's expensive for the owner. That's a decision they need to make, and that needs to be discussed up front, not when we're doing the job. If they want the good stuff, if they want Bezaza glass tile, fantastic. It's great stuff. You're going to pay that price. What it is. You can find less expensive glass tile, but if you want the good stuff like that, that's cool. You're going to pay for that, and that's okay. That's a decision the owner needs to make, not you. So here, picture on the left, quarry tile. What's the white stuff on the tile? What's it look like? What's that? Grout? No, it's not actually grout. It's masking tape. So now, a lot of people go, Rod, are you serious? Yeah, that's a real job. And I'm not trying to knock this guy or anything else, but I'm telling you that's what this is for, because there are plenty of guys out there going, he's not the only guy I've ever seen do that. And he's going, well, that's how we pre-seal or protect the tile so that the black grout doesn't stain the red quarry. We masking tape the whole thing. We take razor blades and cut each joint, and then we grout. And I'm going, and that's less expensive? And honestly, the answer is, oh, is there a better way? Well, I'm saying, this isn't because the guy's going, I just don't care, whatever. He literally did not know that there was a better way to do that. But again, I'm telling you, those kind of guys aren't here at these shows, and I wish they were. Because again, thank you for being here, because like this, we'll spend as much time trying to educate, but I don't want to see that. I'm not there, I'm not trying to knock the guy or make fun of it or anything else. That's just the real world. But we don't want to see those. That's why we're having this discussion right here. Because yes, there is a better way. and a cheaper way and a more effective way. This picture on the right, you might be hard to see. Anybody see the dark strip right up the middle there? That's a limestone job, commercial exterior limestone job, where they used a modified epoxy grout. And you're going, wow, that's kind of bold, modified epoxy grout on limestone. They went, hey, we're going to pre-seal it. And they did. So what's the dark strip? Well, that's where they had two guys doing it. They go, okay, you get up to that row, and he's going, I got that row right there. And they're doing that and everything. And they missed it by a row. Both of them. And so the dark, what's the dark? That's the modified epoxy, what it would look like if they didn't pre-seal it. Like I showed you in the sample tiles. That's a real job of what I just showed you in those little test tiles. That's, like I said, that's real world. That entire row had to be ripped out and replaced. What I like about that picture, did the pre-sealer work? Did the pre-sealer work on limestone even with a modified epoxy grout? Yeah, except where they missed it. But again, I'm just showing you, this is real world. What I'm showing you is real world stuff, like I said, but it worked great except where they missed it. So, pre-sealer candidates, stones like this to prevent picture framing, right? Porcelain tile, why is that dark? That's just water. You're going, wow, doesn't porcelain tile? Again, that's unglazed porcelain, by the way, just like I said. That's what water does to that porcelain tile. Do you think it would stain if you grouted it? How about if you spilled coffee on it? Yeah, it would. So pre-seal it. Who knew that black grout would stain white marble? At least he stopped. And literally, he was like, Rod, I guess I never really thought about it. I thought marble was so dense that it wouldn't stain. I'm like, well, I get it, except you found out. At least he stopped. But again, if he pre-sealed it, you can use black grout on white marble. Picture framing again in showers, the same kind of stuff. What I like about this is a multi-building campus in La Jolla, California, about 40,000 feet, give or take, on these buildings. And they did exactly what I said. Number one is, what I didn't say is this. We all need to work as a team. Architect, spec writer, GC, designer, tile contractor, distributor, manufacturer. We are a team. We win as a team, we lose as a team. That's a fact. I don't care what product, what companies. You win as a team, you lose a team. It's when everybody operates in a silo. This is what we do, man. We're not talking. We just you go do your job. I'm doing mine. That's when all this stuff happens. That job, everybody kind of held hands and went, hey, let's work as a team. Let's talk. Let's share. This isn't our first rodeo. Pre-sealing stone? Yeah, I've been there, done it, seen some of those. Hey, let's do that. Wow, cool. Came out great. Hey, the owner went, man, look at my buildings. That's why I hired you. And he goes, that's why I hired you, Mr. GC. Well, that's why I used your stone. That's why we picked you to install it. And that's why we used your setting material. And everybody held hands and sang kumbaya. But everybody got paid. And that job went on a bunch of websites and the photo gallery. It's weird. I've never seen this job on a website going, we did that job. Check it out. And you know that failure? Yeah, we did that one too. It's weird how those never end up on the websites. But those do. The ones that are very simply work together as a team. Grout releases. These are not sealers. These are temporary film forming coatings that are water soluble. They rinse off during the grout cleanup process. So plank tile, that's a glazed tile. You don't need to seal it. But if you're the guy grouting it, you go, Rod, we need help. That natural texture is a bear in some cases. So if sealing won't work, what will? That's where you use a grout release. You roll it on, and in 15 to 20 minutes you're grouting. And again, it goes from this to, okay, I can grout that wood plank, and it makes your cleanup quicker and easier. Same thing as a sealer, but these are for more of the glazed porcelains and even in some cases quarry tile. Textured tile like this, unglazed porcelain. Great installer, but he thought he could grout it without having to seal. Again, this is not a porosity issue. This is a texture issue. That is the magnified texture of that. Looks like Velcro. There's no installer I know that is good enough to grout that tile without a treatment. That's not an indictment on them. It's not bad tile. It's not bad anything. It just means to use this material to get to this result, we have to have something in the middle that allows us to bridge that texture issue. That's not a porosity issue. It is a texture issue. That is where you use a grout release instead of a sealer. Does that make sense? Okay, and then again, you can get through it like this. when you're using even micro porosity and micro texture like here, you can grout with a contrasting color grout 125,000 feet and not have staining issues, clean it up easy, get through it. That's through the use of a grout release. Otherwise, that kind of stuff gets to be a bear, even with micro texture. Grout release is your option. So what's going on here? That's my guest house, so it's kind of cool. I don't know, I may change it. I don't know, I wish. But again, what's going on? What's going on is, again, I showed you a lot of bad stuff. What's going on is everybody got paid. What's going on is people are going, that's cool. Came out exactly like we said. What's going on there is going, man, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, cool. Man, I'm glad I used you. Glad we knew what to do. So again, I don't care if it's tile or stone, does not matter. As much as I've shown you some of the bad stuff, when these products and systems are used and everybody works together, that's what happens. I'm fortunate enough to get to see the good with the bad. I love seeing this. I love being here. I don't like being on the jobs that I showed you that are negative, because ultimately it's like, Rod, tell me who's to blame for this job here. I don't want to be there. I hate those job inspections. We need more case study or showcases instead of case studies. Like I said, there's a lot of great workmanship. There's some bad stuff going on. It's always going to be there. But there's a lot of great workmanship going on out there. And it's the guys and the people and the companies that say, hey, we want to work as a team. What's the objective? Let's make sure we walk it through and we produce those raw. Again, there's a lot of great stuff. We need more of that. And so with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And again, I appreciate your time. I'll be in the back here for time's sake if you guys have questions. But again, thanks for coming out. Let us know what we can do to help you. But again, thanks for being here today.